Good afternoon everyone. Let us start today's class with the concept of cost or production cost. Now we have already dealt with the concept of production function, and the concept associated with production is cost. If you are producing something, there will be a cost of production. Okay. So first of all, we will discuss what is cost function. A cost function is a mathematical relationship between the cost of production and the determinants of cost of production. It looks something like this. C equals to function of quantity produced, price of factor, quantity of factor used, technology, and so on. There can be innumerable determinants of cost. So we will focus on these four only. So over here, the cost of production is shown to depend upon quantity of output produced. If you produce more, the cost of production will be very high, and vice versa. The cost of production also depends upon the price of factors. If the price of factors is very high, your cost of production will be very high. That means price of factor implies salary paid to the laborers, interest paid to the capitals. If these are at a very high level, if the price of labor, if the price of capital is very high, your cost of production will be high, and vice versa. Quantity of factor used, if you are using huge amount of labor and capital, then your cost of production is likely to be very high, and vice versa. And the state of technology also depends and determines your cost of production. If the state of technology that you are using is high tech, upgraded and efficient, then you can produce more output using less input, so which will keep your production cost low, and vice versa. So this is a cost function showing the dependency of production cost upon the various factors, okay, or various determinants of production cost. Now, as we know that production function can be of two types, short run and long run. So similarly, with the short run production function, the cost associated is termed as short run cost, okay, and for the long run production function, the cost associated is termed as long run cost. So cost function can be of two types, short run and long run. The short run cost function looks something like this. Okay, so cost of production over here depends upon the output that you are producing. The short run is a time frame which is so small that these determinants cannot change. You cannot change the state of technology or the quantity of factor used in such a short time frame. So the change in cost is basically coming into existence due to change in the quantity produced. If you are producing output more, then your cost will be high, and if you are producing less, your cost will be low. However, these things cannot change in the short run. So short run cost function is a cost function where the cost changes due to change in quantity of output produced only, keeping other determinants constant. And in the long run, cost function looks something like this. Here all the factors or all the determinants are variable. Long run is a time frame where all the factors can be changed, or all the determinants of cost can be changed. So a long run cost function shows the relationship of cost with all the factors, and nothing is kept constant over here. All the factors or all the determinants of cost can change. Okay. Now we will discuss types of cost. Types of cost. Number one, we have already explained it is short run and long run cost. The other is money cost and real cost. What is money cost and real cost? Money cost basically expresses the cost of production in terms of monetary terms. Whenever we express the cost of production in monetary terms, it is basically the money cost. Say if we say the cost of producing a unit of a commodity is 20 rupees, then this is the money cost. Say for producing X we need 20 rupees, so this is the money cost. Okay, so just express the production cost in terms of money or in monetary terms, it will be money cost. And what is real cost? Real cost basically shows how much amount of factors do we need for producing a commodity. Say if I say for producing 1 unit of X we need 10 units of labor and 10 units of capital, then 10 units of labor and 10 units of capital is basically the real cost. So real cost focuses on the quantity of factor used, and money cost focuses on the money value of these factors. How much cost you are incurring for producing one commodity. Okay, so this is shown by the money cost, and real cost focuses on the how much amount of factors you are using. And now the third concept of cost is explicit and implicit. So the third type of cost is explicit and implicit cost. Now what is explicit cost? It is the expenditure incurred by the producer on hiring the factors that he does not own. Say there are 4 factors of production. Among these 4, I own a land and I am a producer. So land is owned by me. I do not have to I do not have to hire or pay rent for the land. However, for production, I need to hire capital, labor and organization. And if I hire them, I do have to pay something in return. So that payment to labor, capital and organization will be known as explicit cost. Whereas implicit cost implies the cost or the expenditure incurred by the producer upon the self-owned resources. So for me, self-owned resources is basically my land. Okay, so sometimes I do have, if I am producing using my land, then sometimes I do have to incur some expenditure on this land, and that expenditure is done upon my self-owned resources. Okay, I am not paying it to someone else, rather I am paying it to myself. So implicit cost implies that cost, that is the cost that I am paying to that I am paying upon my self-owned resources. Okay, so these are the 3 types of cost. Now we will discuss how the cost curves looks like, why they look or why they are shaped as inverted S shape, or why they are shaped as U shape. Okay, so we will try to understand the reason behind the shapes of cost curve and how to derive them. So we know there is a relation, we have already studied in our HS class, that total cost is the summation of total fixed cost plus total variable cost. Okay, now what is total fixed cost? Total fixed cost is the cost that does not change with the change in output. It will remain same even if your output is 0 or if your output is 100. Say the rent on the land on which you have an industry. So even if you are producing 0 amount of quantity, your rent will remain same. Even if you are producing 100 unit of commodity, your rent will remain the same. So fixed cost does not change with output, whereas the variable cost changes with output. Okay, variable cost implies the change in cost, that is coming into existence due to increase in the employment of variable factors or decrease in the employment of variable factors. So by adding these two, we get what is known as total cost. Now if I draw it in form of a diagram. I hope the concept of total variable cost is clear to you all. It is nothing but change in the cost due to change in the variable factors. Now variable factors can be labor, can be capital, depending upon what resources you are using. So fixed cost does not change with output, whereas the variable cost do change with output. Okay. So over here, let me so variable factor or output over here TC, TVC and EC. Now according to the definition, the total fixed cost does not change with change in output, so it will remain fixed. It will be shown by a horizontal line, total fixed costs. Okay. Whereas the total variable cost does change with output, and when your output is zero, that means you are not employing any variable factors, any labor or capital. So when your output is zero, your total variable cost will also be zero. So the total variable cost starts from this point and takes the shape of a inverted S. Inverted S means ulta S. Okay? The reverse S. So first of all, the total variable curve increases at a decreasing rate, then it increases at a constant rate, or it becomes constant for a range of output, and then it increases at an increasing rate. The shape of this inverted S total variable cost curve is due to law of variable proportion. Okay, so I know we have already done this thing in our HS level, but this is also important for this semester. So do focus upon the shapes of the cost curve. We are doing the total cost curves now, then we will move to the average cost curves. Okay, and what are the relation between them? So total fixed cost remains constant, and it is shown by a horizontal straight line parallel to x-axis, whereas the total variable cost curve is shown by the inverted S-shaped curve. Okay, and the shape of this total variable cost is due to the law of variable proportion. Initially it increases at an decreasing rate, then it becomes constant for a range of output, and then it increases at an increasing rate. Now according to the formula, total fixed cost plus total variable cost gives us total cost. So the total cost curve will be of this shape. It will lie above total variable cost. Why? Because we are saying that total variable cost plus total fixed cost will give us total cost. So the distance between these two curves, total variable cost and total cost, is total fixed cost. Okay, and when output is zero, when your output becomes zero, we know that total variable cost becomes zero. When your output is zero, total variable cost becomes zero. So this term vanishes. So when Q is zero, your total cost and total fixed cost are same. So when Q is zero, your total cost and total fixed cost are same. They are they have originated from the same point. Okay, and the TC goes parallel to TVC. Why? Because the size of total fixed cost, that is the gap between them, remains constant. Okay, no matter if the output increases or decreases, the size or the gap between them will remain constant, because the gap between them indicates total fixed cost, and the total fixed cost remains constant over the entire spread of output. Okay. So this is a shape of the total curves. Over here I would like to mention that the total cost curve is also inverted S shape, and it is, if you are asked why it is S shape, you will directly say it is S shape due to law of variable proportion. Okay. So this was all about total cost curve. Now we will move to average cost curve. Now for determining the average, we have to divide the above equation by Q. Divide the above equation by Q. So TC by Q, TFC by Q plus TBC by Q. So we will get average cost, average fixed cost, average variable cost. So from total fixed cost we get the concept of average cost. Okay. Now the same relationship exists between these two. Average fixed cost, if we sum it up with average variable cost, we will get what is known as average cost. Now let us first discuss the concept of average fixed cost. AFC, it is shown as TFC by Q. Now as we know, the TFC remains constant, it does not change. However, the output does change. So say our TFC is 10 and initially my output is 1. So my AFC is 10. Then if my TFC remains same, TFC will obviously remain same and it won't change with output. However, my output level may increase 1 to 2. So your AFC is 5. AFC 3. Say my output level increases to 3. So what do we see? As we go on increasing the output, that is the denominator, our AFC value falls. It will go on falling as you go on increasing the output, as because the above numerator remains constant. The numerator cannot change because the numerator is TFC. TFC does not change with output. So the numerator is constant, whereas the denominator goes on increasing. So due to this, our AFC value falls. So if we plot this in form of a diagram, it will look something like AFC Q. So when our output is low, that is near 1 or below 0, our AFC value is very high. And as I go on increasing the output, the AFC value goes on falling, and it comes closer to the x-axis. However, it won't touch x-axis ever because TFC cannot be 0. Okay. So over here, when the output is low, my AFC value is high, and as I go on increasing the output, my AFC value go on decreasing, and it comes closer and closer to the x-axis. Now this curve is known as rectangular hyperbola curve. Rectangular hyperbola curve. The shape of this curve is rectangular hyperbola, and the name of the curve is AFC. The shape is rectangular hyperbola, the name is average fixed cost. And this property, there is a specific property of this curve. The specific property of the curve is that it comes closer to both the axes. That is, it comes closer to y-axis as well as it comes closer to x-axis, but it does not touch us. So this property of a curve is known as asymptotic property. Whenever a curve comes closer and closer to any of the axes and does not touch us, then it is termed as a asymptotic property of a curve. Okay. So we are done with the average fixed cost curve. Then we will move to average variable cost curve. Let us now deal with average variable cost. It is given as average, total variable cost by Q. Now the average variable cost curve, VC and Q. For average variable cost, we say that initially, as we increase the output, our average cost goes on falling, it reaches a minimum, and then after reaching that minimum, it starts rising up. So, average variable cost curve is basically a U-shaped curve. Okay. As we go on increasing the output, my average cost falls, reaches a minimum, and then it rises. Now you may ask, why initially as we go on increasing the output, why my cost is going down? In the initial stage of production, your machines are fresh, you are employing less amount of labor, so managing the labor and capital is very efficient. You are able to give focus upon all the labors, you are able to manage them, okay, well. So your cost of production goes on falling, it reaches a minimum. Then what happens, as you further go on increasing output, your machines are getting weaker, it is getting depreciated, and you have to employ a labor of huge amount. Okay, as you go on increasing output, you have to employ more and more labor, so your labor mass is becoming more, your machines are getting depreciated. So what is happening, as because your labor mass is getting bigger, you are not able to control them anymore efficiently, you are not able to control them efficiently anymore, rather they are creating or they are forming labor union, they are doing strikes and all for increasing their wage rate, and the capital assets, that are the machines, are already depreciated. So beyond this point, if you go on increasing the output, the negative impact upon production starts creeping up, the negative form of energy starts creeping up, and those factors basically push up your cost of production. Okay, so initially everything is fresh, the labor mass is small, they are not forming any labor union, you are able to produce your output, and your cost of production is also going down, it reaches a minimum, and then your your cost of production starts going up because of forming of labor union, depreciating of machineries, and so on. Okay, so for this reason ABC is U-shaped. And now let us discuss the shape of AC curve. AC curve, as we know, comes up by adding average fixed cost with average variable cost. Now for drawing AC curve, we first have to draw these two curves. First we will draw the average fixed cost curve, which follows the asymptotic property AFC. Then we will draw the average variable cost curve, or average variable cost, and then by adding these two curves we will draw the AC curve. Now AC curve, remember the minimum point of AC curve will not correspond to the minimum point of ABC. The minimum point of ABC is over here, the minimum point of AC is over here, so the minimum point of AC will lie a bit towards the right hand side of the minimum point of ABC. Okay, they won't be on the same point or at the same level of output. If you find this in any book, then it is wrong. Okay, the minimum point of both these curves cannot lie at the same level of output. The AC will be slightly on the right hand side. Now I will explain what is the reason. First of all, what we are seeing, that AC is falling. Why? Because the AC is made up of AFC and AVC. So initially both these two components are going down. So AC is also going down. Okay. Then AVC reaches its minimum, but even after this output level, AC keeps on falling. So one component is still falling and the other has reached minimum. So the combined impact of these two components is pulling the AC curve further down. AC could have stopped over here if there was no AFC, but there we are, over here we are having both AVC and AFC. One AVC reaches minimum point over here, however AFC is still falling. So AFC is basically pulling the AC further down till this point, and after that what happens? The rise in AVC overpowers the fall in AFC. So after this point AC goes up. So till this point, as both the components were falling, AC falls, reaches a minimum, and then it rises. Why it rises? Because the rise in AVC overpowers the fall in AFC. Okay. So AC reaches minimum at Q1. AVC reaches minimum at Q1 and AC reaches minimum at Q2 on a much larger amount of output. And the other thing that we have to keep in mind is that initially the distance between AVC and AC is seen to be very large, and as we go on increasing the output, the later part we are seeing that the distance between these two curves are getting smaller and smaller. Why? We know that the distance between AC and AVC is AFC. Initially, in the initial output levels, the value of AFC is very high. See, at this output level, the value of AFC is very high, this amount. So, therefore, the gap is very high between them. As we go on increasing the output, say this amount, the amount of AFC is very low. So, the distance between them is getting reduced as we go on increasing the output. So this is the reason between the gapping between these two curves. Initially the gap remains high because AFC is high, and as we go on increasing the output, AFC falls and the distance between these two curves decreases. So we are done with the three curves, and there is another curve, that is MC, marginal cost curve. Now the marginal cost curve can be drawn in this fashion. The marginal cost curve has to be drawn in such a fashion that when it rises, it should intersect the minimum point of AVC and the minimum point of AC. So whenever MC is drawn, the rising part should intersect the minimum point of AVC and AC. Okay. So it is also a U-shaped curve. And why it is U-shaped? Due to the law of variable proportion. So all the curves which are found to be U-shaped is due to law of variable proportion. All the curves that are found to be inverted S shape, it is due to law of variable proportion. Okay. So this was all for today. In the next class we will deal with private cost, social cost, and the long run curves, and hopefully we will finish the chapter in 1 or 2 classes. Okay.